Hi, everyone. It's so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Can I just get a sense of how many people are on the East Coast? Are most people in the East Coast time zone here at the Bloomberg School in person? Or are people coming from all over the place? Thank you, Ashita. I see one thumbs up. Right here on Wall Street. Oh, we've got a California. Excellent. Detroit. We were just talking about that. So some of our team, CCP is a very global organization, and we've got folks tuning in from all over. So good to see all of you. Thanks again for making the time. I know the time zones can make that complicated. I'm just going to give folks another minute to join us. I know there's a little transition if you're coming from a class or getting off a call, and we will get started very soon. Let's see. Who wants to tell us in the chat what department you are with, just to give us a sense of representation, or which program you're joining with? I'm an alum of the Pop Fam department. Tim is a current DRPH student, actually, which he's one of our presenters. I'll let him introduce himself in just a minute, but gives him that added student perspective. Got some MPHers, HBS, International Health. Yep, HBS and SBI work very closely together. And EPI-MHS, excellent. And another, great. Yeah, thanks so much to the Career Center for getting the word out about this session. I think one of the pieces of magic to me about public health in general, and certainly what I enjoy about CCP, is that it takes lots of different kinds of people with lots of different talents and skill sets. So we really like to encourage that inclusivity and really tap into the range of skills that our teams bring. Okay, well, you all didn't come here to listen to me chit chat, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I'm going to share my screen. And if folks can just give me a quick thumbs up that they can see that okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maximilian, Marissa, Allie, thanks. Okay, so welcome. Yeah, I'm here with some colleagues from the Johns Hopkins Center for Communication Programs. Just since this is a Career Center event, I'm assuming we're capturing a wider audience. So to be clear, the center is an affiliate of the Health, Behavior, and Society department within the school. In today's conversation, we're going to provide an overview of CCP and its work. We'll talk a little bit in more specifics about units within the center and specific projects. We'll definitely get to describe some student engagement opportunities. I think that's probably a good area of interest for you all, and make some space to answer questions. If you have questions that come up along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'm not sure the speaker can always monitor that in real time, but we'll certainly work to get to all of them before the end of the session. So my panel today includes me. I'm Lisa Folda. I'm a senior program officer, and I am a graduate of the School of Public Health. I worked at CCP as a program officer for about 5 years, and then left for a time and have returned in a new capacity with the Research and Evaluation Unit. And I'm going to ask each of my colleagues just to do a brief intro. Jory.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jory Nana. I'm a senior program officer in our strategic communication unit at CCP. I'm not a Hopkins alum. I went to Tulane, but very happy to be here with you all today.
And hello, my name is Tim. I am a research officer in the research division of CCP. I am a Hopkins alum. I did my MPH and started with CCP as a student, an MPH student doing capstone and practicum work. Subsequently got hired and currently a DRPH student, but still working full-time at CCP, part-time DRPH at Hopkins.
And hi, I'm Erica Nybro. I'm a senior strategic communication advisor at CCP. Been at CCP for 18 years, and I came to CCP straight from my MPH at UNC. For most of my time, I've worked at the Demographic and Health Surveys Project, which CCP is a partner on, and in the last year have transitioned back to sort of headquarters projects working on COVID, which you'll hear more about in a little bit. Back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, everybody. So I want to pause and be intentional at this point to say that the most important work that CCP does really is done by our colleagues in countries of implementation. In an effort to be mindful and considerate of their work-life balance, a noontime session is not convenient for most of them. So we're here to represent, but I want to bring awareness to the fact that there's hundreds of them, and we really cannot overstate their expertise, their dedication to excellent programming, and making sure that our work holds up to the scrutiny of rigorous evaluation. So at CCP, we believe in the power of communication to save lives by empowering people to adopt healthy behaviors for themselves, their families, and their communities. And really what that means is that we believe communication is key to solving the world's most pressing health problems. So we break that out and do that in a few ways through social and behavior change, knowledge management, capacity strengthening, and research and evaluation. And each of those we'll get into in a bit more detail as we talk. CCP really started as an organization in the late 70s, early 80s, focused on family planning, but that has expanded considerably. So it now incorporates maternal and child health, malaria, HIV, and other infectious diseases, nutrition, water, sanitation, and hygiene. We've done some education work. We've done some work with democracy and governance. We've done some climate work and are hoping to do a lot more on that as an issue. But I want to bring attention also to this last bullet point, emerging diseases. For CCP, that really started a few years ago with Zika, probably before that even with an Ebola outbreak, but that has since really led to an area where we're garnering more and more attention. So that includes now Zika, COVID, Ebola, monkeypox, and there's a whole sphere under the umbrella. Jory can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, of risk communication and community engagement, for which CCP is increasingly well known, which is something that's really exciting. We've worked in 80 countries around the globe. We're currently in more than 40. And we've also got a Baltimore team, which I love to refer to as small but mighty. It is a remarkable group. They partner really closely with the city health department. They've done work on teen pregnancy and contraception, on harm reduction, COVID work around the city as well. In 15 years since becoming part of HBS, we've been awarded over $2 billion in grants, and we just hit a milestone recently, estimating that the reach of our COVID messages has reached 1 billion people on Earth. So 15% of the globe's population has in some way been touched by work that we've done. So again, just to kind of give these big buckets, I would say CCP's work breaks down into programs, research, knowledge management, and data dashboards increasingly is a growing area, which Erica will touch on in a bit. I've got some descriptors here, but I want to bring attention to the common denominator of capacity strengthening. As we do each of the elements of this work, we really do make an effort to be true collaborators and to make sure that, skills that we may have because of access to education or opportunity are things that we are sharing with our coworkers, our peers, our trusted advisors in our countries of implementation. So this can look like all kinds of things. This can mean creating videos. This can mean distilling complex reports into more manageable and digestible sound bites or media, design branding, convening scriptwriters. The work of communication is a big and broad field. So one more pause I'm going to take here is just to say that about every 5 years, CCP goes through a strategic planning process. And in 2020, as part of that, reassessment, chance to reassess our values and recommit to the work, we created something called what we call the Anti-Racist Action Group, so ARAG. This really has been an important addition. So I want to be very mindful and say, you know, there are 4 white faces in front of you, but CCP is a very multicultural organization, both US and globally. And the AREG group has been tremendous in its guidance and in providing spaces for us to have deep reflection and spend time on hard conversations about how we as CCP can move ourselves forward as an anti-racist organization. So we do this to some degree in alignment with the school's IDARE office. And if you're not familiar with that, I would definitely urge you to check out their website, Inclusion, Diversity, Anti-Racism, and Equity. But I would go so far as to say, and I hope my colleagues would agree, you know, I think that our specific AREC group has pushed us even further in really dedicating time and commitment to that effort for CCP. So what does this all add up to? I have a brief video that I'm going to share here, and I'll mostly let it speak for itself. But just to contextualize, this was put together in December of last year, so already almost a year ago, for an internal CCP meeting. So it was the end of the calendar year and a chance to celebrate Breakthrough Action, which is our largest global project, active in 30 countries at this point, I think. And I'll let the video do its thing, and then we'll come back to the group. Okay. So just, you know, again, just to make mention, that was a a piece that we shared internally. When you remember back to the sort of periods of isolation and COVID, it was pretty powerful to see the kinds of things that our teams were able to keep moving during that time. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Jory.
Thank you, Lisa, and hello again, everyone. I'm happy to kick us off a little bit in some of our deeper discussions about different aspects of a career with CCP. And I want to start off with just framing a little bit about some of the things that as a student you might be able to access, or benefits, or just different perspectives on working at CCP. And some of the things that, just from my own experience and talking to colleagues, like some of the things that could await you if you work at CCP. One of the things that I really appreciate about CCP is that we never get bored. We're a small group in Baltimore at headquarters, and we have a wide diversity of projects. And so just in coming in, you get exposed to a lot of different areas, you know, a lot of different health areas. Lisa listed everything from nutrition to malaria to emerging and infectious diseases, which is the area I primarily work on. There are so many different activities that are happening, and so many really technical experts, both based in Baltimore and, as Lisa mentioned, all over the world in our country offices. And so if you're open-minded and really interested in being exposed to a lot of different health areas, this is a great, you know, there's a great structure to kind of be able to do that. And I think somewhat unique in the breadth of the kinds of things that we do. And so if you're someone who gets bored easily, you won't get bored here. In terms of different tracks, research programs, knowledge management, I think one thing that really struck me, because I came from a program management background with a very large global NGO before coming to CCP. And one thing that I really appreciate about working at CCP as somebody who works on the program side is sort of the interconnection between the departments and the way that our research teams are embedded with our country program implementation teams in ways that allow us to really infuse programs with data and sort of pursue research in a way that allows us to apply the findings directly in our programs. And that's not something that traditional NGOs often have, because they don't have that institutional structure for research in the way that being connected with the university we do here. So I think that's a really interesting facet of CCP, is that you get connected. Even if you're working in research, you might be working, you'll be seeing some of the impact of that research in the implementation of programs. And if you work in programs, you get a chance to work with researchers and figure out how to use the lessons that are being taken from the research in, you know, program strategy. So there's a lot of really cool, I think, aspects to that. Getting a good glimpse into what work in global health really looks like. And here I would say it's just, you know, you may have a technical area that you're really passionate about, or, you know, that you want to be the next designer of an amazing strategy for family planning, you know, or whatever it is. But I think in terms of the real work of global health and in a career, and Lisa mentioned this, but we are basically here to back an amazing team of people that are working in all of our country offices worldwide. So I think sort of getting a sense of kind of on the back end, what does the day-to-day look like when that is your job? And it's not always about designing the strategy. It's also about making sure that our teams have what they need to navigate the systems of the university. It's making sure that, the dots are connected between the donor, here in the US and the donor offices in country and our country teams. So there's a lot of, kind of back end things that happen that are really important to kind of understand, I think, when you're thinking about a career in global health and kind of what that entails. Because there's a lot of really cool, there's a lot of really travel, there's a lot of opportunities there, but it's also about understanding kind of what we do as backstop or program support. There's lots of access to potential mentoring and informal interviews. I can say that I've personally, although I haven't directly supervised a student, I've been a resource and talked to different students and heard about their career paths and or what they would like to do. So that option is very open. And I think all of the colleagues are extremely open to chatting with students, and many were students in the same position at one point. So I think that is another thing that's really an advantage of as a student working with CCP is the potential for mentoring. We already mentioned many staff are former student workers, so that tells you quite a lot by itself. Opportunities to travel, there are many, and as I said, occasionally as students, those opportunities may become available, but even if you don't get a chance to travel as a student, you get a lot of direct interface time with the work. We're interacting on a daily basis with our country offices. So depending on the kind of project that people are working on, they are very much involved in the activities of whatever unit they are assigned to. Real collaboration, and this is the big one for me because CCP is really the people. CCP is the quality of the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, and so I think it's really amazing to be able to work so closely with. I cover 4 countries, so I get to interact with 4 different country offices on a day-to-day basis. There's so much expertise, there's so much knowledge. We have amazing SBC experts, we have researchers in all of our countries who are just, really trailblazing the way. And so it's just an amazing opportunity to get a chance to work closely with all those different groups and amazing individuals on a day-to-day basis. And that, I think that's summarized by that last point, amazing people in work. I think CCP is the people. And for me, at least, I think that's been the most rewarding aspect of working on this team. So that's just a couple of points as to why I think it's a very special and interesting organization to work for. And maybe I can dive in a little bit, next slide, on some of the aspects. I think we're gonna go into a bit of our different divisions and the kind of work that we're doing, just to kind of give you a sense of how things are structured and give you some examples of what we're doing. I'm going to start on the program side because, as I mentioned, I'm a program officer. I work primarily on our flagship, our largest project, which is the Breakthrough Action Project, USAID funded 8-year project, 30+ countries. And there are many different technical areas in which Breakthrough Action works, but I'm going to focus on just one because that's the area that I work on, and that is the Global Health Security Agenda and Public Health Emergency Preparedness. And so, Lisa mentioned some of our work around COVID and some of these emerging outbreaks, but actually, even a couple of years before COVID, there was a major US government movement to sort of support the preparedness of countries following the Ebola epidemic of 2014, to kind of get countries ready so that the next emerging pandemic does not have the same detrimental impact as Ebola had. And so they started creating these, frameworks and country commitments to supporting different countries to increase their capacities in different areas related to surveillance, emergency operations, human resources, financing, policy. And then one of these areas, these critical areas, is risk communication and community engagement. So within the Global Health Security Agenda portfolio, which we are working currently, I believe, in 12 or 13 active countries, our job and our focus in those programs is really helping countries to prepare their processes and their systems for RCCE before an outbreak happens. So there's a lot of focus on training, tools development, mentoring, and learning for different kinds of RCCE practitioners, whether that be people that are working at the Ministry of Health, communication division, to local NGOs and local organizations that might be involved in community mobilization. We do a lot of development of training packages, direct training and support, supervision of staff who are out doing various kinds of community engagement activities. We conduct behavioral research. So this is where I mentioned it was really cool to work at the nexus of research and programs on sort of the issue of zoonotic disease and sort of the the behavioral risks at the interface of human and animal interaction. We did a series of studies in 5 Francophone African countries looking at practices around interaction with animals, what kinds of zoonotic diseases people are at risk of from those interactions. And from that, we really designed a range of different kinds of big campaigns to address people's behaviors in relation to animals in their lives. So that's just one example of how we're kind of working at that One Health nexus between human, animal, and environmental health. We deliver technical assistance to our country partners to design and implement strategies around social listening and infodemic management, which I think is one of the coolest areas, in my opinion. Sort of like online and offline, but ways to sort of understand what the community is thinking and feeling about a given public health emergency, and how can we respond to that? How can we react in real time? So we do a lot of setting up of rumor management systems, which might include like hotlines, local hotlines, community informants, and increasingly we set up social media monitoring to help stakeholders within the Ministry of Health regularly pull and analyze information coming from social media platforms about the given health issue. As we've all seen with COVID, that's been a huge issue, is misinformation on social media. So there's a lot of that kind of activity going on, and just general support across the preparedness and response continuum. So we work a lot with countries sort of applying the systems and the tools they develop outside of an outbreak and helping them to quickly and in an agile way sort of respond to the outbreak. So that happened with COVID, it's happened with monkeypox and the Ebola outbreak in 2021. We've been able to quickly implement response because countries were already prepared. They had already been developing these tools and training people and working on these areas. So it's kind of an interesting way to be able to bridge that sort of like humanitarian / public health acute response and sort of like the long-term capacity strengthening that needs to happen. And so that's kind of just a little snapshot of the project that I work on. And of course, if I were somebody else would be talking about, our great family planning work and all the social norms work we're doing, around malaria. But, this is the area that I know. So with that, I think we're going to hand it over to Tim for a research perspective.
Yeah, and thanks, Jory. I guess I have the benefit, I work closely with Jory on several of the projects that she just discussed, but also bridge into some of the other fields that we work in. But all of the description Jory just gave is relevant to us in the research division. We share the same spirit of, we exist for the purpose to answer these 2 primary questions. How do we know if the programs that we're running are working, and what evidence supports programmatic decision-making? We are very much research to be applied to programming rather than research to generate knowledge just for the sake of generating knowledge. And so, yeah, we close collaboration with the ministries of health. Whether I personally or my research colleagues are directly designing surveys, reviewing survey tools, conducting data analyses, or often serving as support so that our Ministry of Health colleagues in country or in-country partners that are staff, for example, in Senegal, are supporting to build their capacity to generate national data for their own insights. We are a support system for our countries and our staff in countries at a variety of levels. And so I think something that might be of interest to students is we have tons and tons of data, more data than we can analyze ourselves. And so that presents many opportunities to become involved for various, academic requirements, basically. I was an MPH student at Hopkins, so capstone and practicum, doing data analyses. We are overflowing with data, whether that is like Jory described, looking into the interactions of humans and animals and how disease spreads, and devising strategies to basically prevent that or communicate about behaviors that could prevent the transmission of human and animal diseases, or adjacent to that, I just participated in a study in Senegal looking at antimicrobial resistance. So there's a broad spectrum of data that we have, family planning programs related to communication campaigns like video, radio, television. We conducted some exposure surveys in West Africa on a family planning campaign addressing norms around youth access to family planning. Jory had also mentioned some malaria surveys, so I believe, but yeah, studying norms around, who gets to use a bed net and why, pregnant women, do they have priority in using bed nets to prevent malaria during pregnancy? The ways we approach that, so the second bullet point here is using behavioral theories to understand how people think and feel about various topics. So our main interest, not exclusive, but our main interest is really understanding attitudes, perceptions, norms, why people do certain things. And once we can have a better understanding of why they're doing those things or not performing health behaviors, then we can really collaborate closely with our program colleagues, both in Baltimore and in country, and then by extension, our government colleagues at the Ministries of Health to create campaigns, communication campaigns, programmatic strategies based on evidence to address some of these pressing health concerns. And that's either through quantitative surveying, qualitative methods like interviewing, focus groups, or other innovative means like complexity aware methods. There's a whole variety of qualitative strategies to get a richer contextual understanding of some of these health issues. Conducting trainings, so either on-site or remotely, training data collectors in what our survey instruments are, so they have an understanding and then can communicate those to to the participants in the research, but as well as ethics, ethics with working with human subjects. There's a whole field devoted to that, but then overseeing implementation. Are the data collectors following the protocol that was approved by various ethics committees? And so we kind of run the gamut from conception through analysis and strategy, and everywhere in between. Sometimes it might just be more of the administrative work. We've had students work with us to help review IRB protocols, review tools before implementing them. And so they're every step of the way here, whether it's administrative on the research end or analysis, crunching numbers with Stata or R or any number of softwares, or data visualization. So creating, Lisa had mentioned dashboards. Those are, I don't personally work on some dashboard projects, but my colleagues synthesizing multi-country studies into easily digestible and visual graphics to really help understanding of the broader scope of, for example, malaria and bed net use, and norms surrounding that is quite important. And yeah, I guess I'll just wrap up with that final point. Again, collaboration with programs and partners. We don't exist in a vacuum. Research. Some academic settings, the idea is to generate new theories and just produce data. But we very much are interested in taking that data, understanding it, and feeding it back into our programs kind of iteratively to continually improve the programming to make sure we're not missing people in services. And if we are missing people, who are they? Why are we missing them? And just a continual process to reach more people with health programming, but also equip our government colleagues to take the lead on those things. Ultimately, they are there in service of their populations, and we want to help them develop the systems necessary to collect relevant information. And yeah, now I will pass to Erica to talk about knowledge management.
Thanks, Tim. So as Jory described her work and Lisa showed the video, that was work mostly coming out of Breakthrough Action, which is the big social behavior change activity project that CCP manages. The other huge flagship project that CCP manages is Knowledge Success, which is a knowledge management project funded by USAID. It focuses primarily on family planning, but there is quite a bit of overlap with other activities because, of course, the skills and resources and tools relevant to knowledge management can be applied across topics. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. The objective of knowledge success is to make sure that people working in family planning and reproductive health can find, share, and use the knowledge they need to do their work, to transform the lives of women and men, couples and families all over the globe. As I'm sure you guys are well aware, there is in many cases just an overwhelming amount of information out there. And a lot of even the absolute best practitioners and experts can feel overwhelmed at the amount and not knowing where to go for what and how to judge various resources. And that's really where knowledge management comes in terms of synthesizing information, sorting it in ways and filtering it in ways that are accessible to the right people at the right time. So the goals are to make the really high quality information, knowledge, particularly about family planning and reproductive health, available and accessible. Knowledge Success also does a lot to support knowledge exchange and facilitate knowledge use by strengthening, supporting the influential knowledge brokers. And in most cases, that is our stakeholders in the countries we work in. We are trying to always empower the local voices to share information amongst themselves, to learn from each other. As everyone else has been saying, I mean, our job is to support that work. We are almost never the expert, especially not in specific country or even more localized situations. So we really look to amplify those voices and share that information as much as possible. And then we also try to build capacity in this field of knowledge management and collaboration and learning so that in systems, organizations, individuals in all the countries we work in can do more of this work themselves, both for their own institution and for their broader community. Next slide, Lisa. I'll give you some examples of the cross-cutting COVID-19 work we are doing. So because CCP has active work plans in so many countries, we're in a really good position to tackle emerging crises as they come up. And USAID, who's our primary funder for those two large activities, has really used those mechanisms to be very flexible. And so even though breakthrough action and knowledge success were never conceptualized as key projects to deal with emerging diseases, we have taken on a whole lot of work in that area because we have country offices and experts in communication, behavior change, knowledge management in those places. And those are skills that are essential in a crisis situation. So as Jory explained, Breakthrough Action has a lot of work in COVID-19, lots of messaging about prevention behaviors, promotions for vaccinations, the rumor monitoring to track mis and disinformation and try to counteract that. And that's been really key in those breakthrough action countries. Knowledge Success has also recently started doing some COVID work, which is interesting because, again, it really was designed as a family planning and reproductive health project, but the stakeholders are expressing that there is way too much COVID-19 information. It is spread across a lot of places. They don't know how to access it. They don't know what interventions are working well at a lot of local levels. They want to learn from their counterparts. And so the Knowledge Success team is taking on a bunch of activities to try to coordinate that knowledge, identify the most important lessons learned, and share that information among a large range of stakeholders. And of course, the Baltimore City team has also been really instrumental with the city of Baltimore in terms of supporting vaccination outreach and messaging to local communities through religious leaders and other groups, radio stations, things like that, to help find those who are the most hesitant about vaccination and reach out to them. CCP has also gotten a bunch of new smaller projects around the COVID-19 work, including the COVID behaviors dashboard, which I work directly on. This was a partnership between a number of universities and Facebook, actually, who collected data globally and within the United States on COVID-19 prevention behaviors, attitudes about vaccination, barriers to vaccination, that kind of thing. And in a lot of countries where CCP works, this was really the only source of that kind of national level data in that area. And so our team worked to visualize it in a really, I think, clean and easy to access way on a live dashboard, and also did some more analytical deep dives looking at the data to try to understand some of the relationships going on and the trends and comparisons across countries. We also supported the university in the Get the Facts, Get the Vax campaign. So if you have been around Hopkins for the last couple of years, you've probably seen some of that. Our team worked on a lot of that messaging and infographics. And we're actually right now doing a sort of another activity with the university on sexual violence resources. So the university does recognize us, I think, as a real leader and expert in this space. And when they need to communicate with the university community about important health issues, they have come to us, which we love. We love being better connected to the university and having that hopefully an impact really close to home. And we've also developed some training programs for journalists on COVID-19 and are looking to build up our sort of media outreach, because health communication is essential. And there are so many media professionals throughout the world who don't have an official expertise in this area, and that level of communication and building the trust of the community in media to share that information, especially in times of a crisis like a pandemic, is really key. So I think that's it for me, and we can, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Just listening to everybody, I wish that I want to retitle this as CCP as collaborator. I feel like that is one key takeaway that I hope all of you are hearing. Just to Erica's point about work with the university, even just showing the breakthrough action video, you know, at the end, there are at least 7 different logos there. There is no such thing as a CCP project. It really is, you know, we may be the lead on something, but we absolutely need the expertise that Save the Children brings into breakthrough action, that Think Place adds, that Ideas 42 lens as a design thinking leader. So just to bear in mind, you know, all of these are collaborative processes that keep us flexible and growing, and not, you know, always looking for the potential for more. So I'll just I don't want to spend too much time here. I'll let you scan this slide. These are just some examples of ways that we worked across the school and across departments at the university. I want to bring awareness particularly to the last bullet, perhaps about faculty who do teach at the school. So there are several who sit at CCP as full-time staff and also do course instruction. And I've got a few names here. I would mention too I guess I would call it our signature courses in the spring. It's in 3rd and 4th term, called Health Communication Programs. It has been taught for years by Doug Story, who recently retired. So Radha Rajan is going to take that on with a co-instructor. And please be on the lookout for that. If you would like to know sort of all of the behind the scenes of how you take an idea, do the formative research, ask the right questions to develop a strategy, all the way through implementation and evaluation. Students do that annually on campus. So last year we had campaigns about, oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank, but we had campaigns, we often have campaigns about nutrition. There was a COVID one. We had one about how much time people should look at their screens and how to rest your eyes in between. So, you know, should you take the stairs? Should you take the elevator? It takes all shapes.
I think last spring it was sleep, right, Lisa?
Yeah, there's sleep also. Yeah. There was one about, should you let your pets lick you on the face? There's just been all manner of things, all student driven. So you as the student can choose, you know, what's your compelling issue. Blood donation, that was another one. And, you know, develop a campaign to try to convince your peers to make a good choice. Does anybody else? Yeah, Jory, Tim, Erica, does anybody else have anything you want to add on this list?
Maybe just real briefly, Carol Underwood's courses, she takes a much more sociological perspective on communication and health. They're always very interesting perspectives, and I recommend any of her courses if you can take one.
I think we could say something, so endorse each of these. Caroline Jacoby does entertainment education, which is fantastic. Zoe Hendrickson has done a lot on research methods. Our Zoom and Elizabeth teach a course on leadership specifically. So yeah, it's a great lineup. And we also do our part to try to contribute to dissemination, as folks have mentioned. So certainly through the traditional means of peer-reviewed journals, things like Malaria Control, the Journal of Health Communication, British Medical Journal, lots of avenues to try to get out, take the information we're gathering and make sure that it is also out in the public sphere. Jory, I saw you unmute yourself. Do you want to add anything?
Oh, no, I would say we've worked a little bit with the Center for Humanitarian Health as well on sort of like, they have like, global emergency rosters for, different related skills. And I think we've done some, not a ton, but we've collaborated with them on sort of building up the RCCE surge capacity for different kinds of public health emergencies. So I was just going to add that to the list.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I do have an eye on the time, and I want to make sure that there's room for questions. But I also, we want to be explicit about opportunities for students. So we do host students in a lot of different capacities. Probably the most general category is research assistantships, and really that can take lots of shapes and sizes. So it may be, we urgently need help for 1 month in an intensive way, or it may be, we have a project for a year and we have some student funding, and that scope of work is going to evolve and change as the project evolves and changes. We have taken on students for MPH capstone mentorship, and I have made a note here. In fact, given Tim's reference, when we have data sets, we should probably just let the MPH program know because there's always room for further analysis. We've had students do their MPH practica, the MSPH practica, which are shaped quite differently just in terms of available hours and intensity. So, all of those things have been hosted at CCP. And also, as Tim mentioned, we've worked with PhD students and often have projects and data that can yield a dissertation topic. So we, at the bottom, I've put a link in here to a form, a Google form, and actually I will just show you what that looks like. If you're interested, I would encourage you to fill this out. It really gives us a chance for you to tell us about yourself. What are you interested in? What skills would you like to grow? What do you also sort of bring to the work? And please spend some time on it, because in many cases we don't publicize scopes of work. We often have the luxury of going to our student database and saying, this person looks like a good fit. They say they're interested in advocacy, they speak Spanish, that's what this team needs. So we have a large database to pull from, and it's exciting to see all the backgrounds that students are bringing to that. Please make sure that you've got a resume in there, and I'm gonna make sure that I get the nod from Olivia if you need help with that and it's a good time to update, make sure that that's current so that that's something you can add here. In addition to that, I would mention the public health, the Office of Public Health Practice. When we do publicize things, the Career Center is a great partner in helping us to disseminate those announcements, and the Office of Public Health Practice. So for folks who are newer to the school, if you go under academics on the SharePoint page, public health practice and training, please spend some time exploring this. They are really doing a great job consolidating information and opportunities and trying to look to help you make connections to put your academics into practice. One final note I would make is that CCP is hosting a large summit in the first couple of weeks of December, the first week of December, starting December 5th. And it is based in Morocco. And if you haven't already registered, it's too late now, I'm afraid, but we are going to be broadcasting our plenary sessions. So I wanted to also put up here the summit webpage so that folks can see that and have a sense of that event. We're in countdown mode. So lots of really interesting people, practitioners from all over the world will be there. And all the schedule will be posted very soon, and anything that you might be interested in terms of hearing from our plenary and keynote speakers will be broadcast. So I would encourage you to check it out. And I think that gets us to our questions phase. So let me just check the chat here, see what we're getting. Thank you, Tim, for posting that. Yep. Thanks, Jared, for asking the question.
But I would say, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but I would highly recommend you signing up on that through the link, because like Lisa said, rarely do we post positions because it's often an immediate need that suddenly arises. And frequently I'll just go to that database, identify, like Lisa said, filter through some relevant criteria and email, 5 or 6 people and kind of see what happens. So I highly recommend filling that out.
Yeah, I do.
And
Go ahead, Erica.
I was going to say, for those of you guys who are not in Baltimore, generally these days, that's not a problem. Most of us are not working in the Baltimore office very often. So even though I think in prior years, there have been expectations that, especially with practica and stuff, that there is in-office time, that's not necessarily true. And certainly if we're looking for some research assistant help, that can usually be done fully virtually. So don't let your physical location be a barrier to filling out the form.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I do want to say, for those of you, some of you may already know about the form. I have already uploaded information there. We don't have a formal internship process. There isn't a apply in November for this thing that starts in February, since so much is determined by country projects and their timelines. So for example, right now, our country project timeline rollover is from September to October, which means that our country projects are just launching on the next phase of their work planning, of their activities. And that may create sort of a lull. They're kind of creating, determining what are the key activities going to be, what is the money that we have, what would be an appropriate scope of work for a student. So again, these things kind of ebb and flow. Things always come up in March where all of a sudden it's like, oh, our donor has asked us for this thing by the end of May, we got to pull in some more person power. And then, we'll put out a call for student support. So I can't guarantee that you're going to hear back directly when you, after you've submitted your form, but I will say that is the best way to get it in front of the most people at CCP. Because every staff person has access to that and can do the sort of searching that Tim described. Yes, Erica.
I was going to say also, when you're thinking about the form or your CV, as much as possible, be specific about the skills that you could bring to a job, because oftentimes we see, oh, I'm really passionate about this and I did really well in this class, but we need to match your actual skills with the task at hand. So whether it's, I'm really good at doing a lit review, or I've been running this organization's social media messaging for the last year, and I would really like, to support a social media campaign. Those are really helpful for us to see, because we're trying to match a specific, work plan with tasks to a skill set. And so if you can list those, we're much more likely to quickly pick your name and send you an email.
I'll also add, in absence of potentially concrete experience, expressed interest in a topical area has been a criteria I've searched for. So if you don't have experience, but you're really motivated in a specific topical area or skill set to develop, that is also relevant. So don't be shy if you feel you don't have a particular skill.
Yeah, I would just plus one on what Erica said. And I think a lot of our interest for students comes from the research division, just because there's so much, active searching, opportunities and people who are interested in that side of things. But, opportunities with program related things do come up as well. But I think it has a lot more to do with the alignment of our work plans and interests. And so that's where having that detailed description really, really does help a lot, because we're dealing more with, discrete activities where we feel like there could be this particular thing that could really use some support. And if we just find, the serendipitous, connection or somebody who is aligned with that, then it's easier for us to just pursue that if we have the detailed information. So, and also highlight your language, please highlight your language skills, because French speakers in particular, I'm on French speaking teams, and we always, we're always on the lookout for, good francophones with varied interests. So.
Yeah, we've really had a growth in our Francophone West Africa work, so that is definitely a superpower we are always looking for. Okay, well, I want to be mindful of the time. If you have not gotten your question answered, by all means, please follow up with me directly. I will do my best to disseminate anything that I can answer to the right people. Thank you so much for attending. Olivia, anything else you need from us to close this out?
No, I do not think so. So thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you all from CCP just for being here and sharing all the information that you did. The recording will be available later, and it'll either be sent out by myself or Caroline for those of you all who want to just look back over it. All right, you all have a good day.
Please tell your friends we are planning to do departmental sessions for HBS and possibly some others. So, certainly those will also be announced and publicized. Hope to see you again.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.